3 fatalities. 1,200 in property damage, 3,000 credits in stolen merchandise, half a dozen missing persons, and enough contraband that if my ship gets stopped, we're all swinging on ropes. Agenda begins. Be fair, Captain. The contraband is nothing more than zing for our food. She's interrupted by Brent's second. A strange command structure had worked out with Brent leading the charge in general, and Marcus being his right hand. Not that it stopped any of the men from doing their own thing whenever they felt like it, but in a group it was usually Brent that kept a lid on things and could be trusted to know what everyone was doing or had done, with Marcus being the one when Brent wasn't around. Which makes it even worse. Now, what was that about recruits? Our missing persons? Yeah, some of the station residents decided they wanted to stick with us. We've got 4 of those gobs slobbering all over Victor during the stampede to try and get some proper salt and pepper. The one that bounced off my shield came back with 3 of her sisters. They jumped on him and grabbed the belt and then fell deep in lust when it took him about half a K of solid running to even notice the silly little things. The cloaker named Mirage, and damn if that isn't an on-the-nose name, has Stockholmed herself like it's an Olympic sport and all, but glued her invisible ass to Franklin. Stockholmed? Olympic? Bonding with your captor's syndrome and a planetary-wide sporting competition, respectively. Yay. Anyways, are there more? A few. Those 2 Nagasha girls that jumped in with us have apparently passed their trial of blades, whatever the hell that actually means, and impressed Jin, despite not actually doing anything than slithering after her in a desperate attempt to keep up. And I'm positive we've got at least 1 stowaway, maybe more. Also, the property damage isn't our fault. Some stupid girl launched a taser net gun which Lou dodged, and it hit a guard's cannon, causing it to misfire and blow a sign, which caused a small riot when the owner came out with a pair of plasma pistols firing, and Jake threw the remains of the sign onto her in self-defense. How the hell do you throw architecture at people in defense? Defensively? Marcus asks, and Agenda's train of thought outright crashes, so she jumps onto another set of rails to get back on track. And the stolen stuff? She prompts. A few smartasses tried to extort sexual favors while we were buying stuff like paprika or oregano, just flavor stuff, you know? We just flat out robbed them when they wouldn't take hard credits for the stuff, knocked skulls when the stupid got so heavy that they protested us stealing what they wouldn't sell. Marcus explains, and Agenda nods, distinctly aware that her Brent is currently wrapped up in Jingai and giving the serpent an abject lesson in how good it feels to be impregnated the old-fashioned way. While she was happy for her subordinate, she still wanted to taste some of her man, too. And what about the death? 3 fatalities is a bit much for a food run, she says, eyeing him down sternly. Some piss-for-brains creature made of gunk swiped a grenade off Jean-Luc, fiddled with it, and set it off, splattering the stupid beast across half a street. That kicked off a panic, and when another idiot made a grab for him, his response was thankfully his boot knife and not the shaped charges he's been fucking with. The last one was somehow even more retarded than stealing a grenade minus a pin or jumping on a clearly deranged lunatic loaded up with deadly weapons. Why did he have so much hardware to begin with? You know Jean-Luc. The dude's a meathead, and if he can't bash it, stab it, or blow it up, he really doesn't care. Damn good in demolitions, but once he gets going, it's pretty much guaranteed that there's going to be a body count. The final fatality? I'm technically partially responsible. I got into an argument with a shopkeeper to get some spicy peppers. You girls call them green evil or something, I call them jalapenos. They dared me to eat one before they'd sell them to me, and I did. There was another customer in the store. She got pissy about it for some reason and decided to eat one herself. It killed her, and I was blamed. Marcus admits an Agenda has to fight down the full-body cringe sensation of that level of stupid. You know, I gotta admit, before I came out of cruel space and found myself surrounded by tits and ass 24/7, I'd have been devastated to see that much woman just fall over dead before she hit the ground. I think the shock killed her before the actual poison did. Fine, whatever, I don't want any more details. We're still welcome on Ashen Ducks, so I can't really bring myself to care. We lost no one and gained a lot, so I can't ask for more. Just make sure that those chemicals are under lock and goddess damn key. They may be flavors for you freaks of nature, but they'll kill anyone who isn't human on the ship. Don't worry, we're already processing it all into sauces and such. Every man will be responsible for his share, and they're to be locked up when not actively being used. The only danger will be if someone's stupid enough to steal of some off our plates. Then the sheer amount of salt and other fun additives will knock most of them flat out. So long as they don't go into shock, we should have time for my girls in medical to pump some stomachs and save lives. I suppose if worse comes to worse, you can use your... what did you call them? Condiments, Marcus answers. Use your condiments as weapons. With the ingredient lists, those things they're going to be classified as war crimes in the waiting no matter what. Yeah? So? Look, vinegar is an acid used for heavy-duty cleaning. You scrub toilets with it, you disinfect surgical implements with it, you hide the blood with it, you don't eat it. We also preserve food with it. The process is called pickling. Really? If you're fond of sour and a solid crunch, then pickles are amazing. Marcus says before chuckling. We need to up your resistances to things like that. Otherwise, no one else is eating it. Wait, only having 9 assholes for competition doesn't sound so bad. You do know that agricultural tech is advanced enough that literally everyone in the galaxy is at greater risk of growing so curvy they can't stand rather than starve, right? Agenda asks him, and he shrugs. But only so much is cooked at once, and... get that out of your head. This may not be a luxury cruise liner, but the Claw not only has enough food, but everything you need to cook anything. If you need more, just make it. Yes, Captain. A starving fighter is a useless one. You boys don't need to fight for food. You do realize we're going to do that for entertainment anyways, right? And I'm going to be recording it and selling it for the big creds. She returns with an evil grin. You've already done that, haven't you? We made so much that it completely offset the cost of all the supplies we bought as well as the damages, and we bought not only extra but the premium stuff too. Nice. Anything else, Captain, or am I free to have some fun? Go get nuts deep in someone, I've got things to do. Agenda orders him, and he salutes and runs off before she can take a swipe at him. Now, it's time to deal with the not-so-subtle stowaways. Unlike the humans whose scents are completely drenched in distracting and blurring pheromones, this one is sharp and clear. It's a Horchka, likely the one that had her prosthetic torn off and broken over her head when she got grabby. She gets the whiff of her prey and quickly picks her way into a maintenance tunnel before going up a floor and into a storage cupboard. There is the Horchka. Her mechanical arm is a generic energy construct rather than the sleek and powerful mechanical beast it was before. A cheap replacement for what she lost. Agenda growls as she rises up, upwards and upwards until she's glaring down at the smaller woman. Balancing on her hind legs is tricky. She's slow but stable like this. With her taking up the entire doorway, the Horchka has nowhere to go but through a battle-tested and heavily armed pirate. She begins as she takes a step back in no small amount of fear. Here for some revenge, are we? He ripped out my arm and broke it over my head. Pirate as are you, you should have known you were in deep when you went for a man who was so unconcerned. Putting aside the sheer amount of weapons they each bore, put aside the protection surrounding them. They would have to be dangerously insane or insanely dangerous to be so comfortable in the center of a pirate station. Which makes trying to get revenge after they spared you stupidly dangerous and dangerously stupid. I am in a lot of trouble? Yes. So now you're either going into the brig without a fuss or put up one, and I get to have fun, Agenda says with a smile that shows all her fangs. There's a lot of fun to be had in being a canine. Even if you can stomach plants well enough, you still have a smile to send them screaming. To her immense disappointment, the Horchka surrenders without a fight. There's also a faint whiff of urine. She remains on her hind legs as she marches the fool down to a holding cell. Captain? One of the men says from behind her, and she whirls in shock. It's Beck. It's fine. He's barefoot for some reason and had showed up without a sound. What? Everyone else is apparently busy, so only I checked with the Dauntless? They need to know any of the ports for the pirate ship. The chaining, apparently there was another pirate attack, and once again, only one person was grabbed. How are you people doing that? She demands. Her and the raiders she had temporarily allied with was one thing. The humans had been surprisingly armed to the teeth. But these new ones surely had more information. Not to mention, the chaining is known for horrifically efficient raids. How the hell did they fight it off? Everyone is heavily armed at all times, and the ship has more ablative plating on it than most ships have ship. It's vaguely impressive you and they have been able to get anyone at all. Speaking of, the chaining managed to get one man. We need to know where they go to effect rescue and possible recruitment. She sighs as she lowers herself down onto all fours and runs a hand through her mane. Get me in contact with him directly. There's a list and a lot of problems. The chaining makes my girls here on the claw seem like rampant cuddle monsters. You are. Compared to the sadists and lunatics on the chaining. She finishes as she ignores his interruption. Also, their captain is a cannibal that thinks implanted bombs are a fun toy for the whole family. I mean that literally. Entire families. Mothers and daughters, as a matter of course, but she also does so for sons and fathers. That ship and everyone on it has a death sentence in nearly half the galaxy. Shoot on sight. The rest of it has an arrest warrant out for the crazy bitches. Detain on sight. This way, please, Captain. We have a raid and rescue operation to plan yesterday, please and thank you. He asks before taking off at a dead sprint towards wherever the men had hooked up their private comm station. Down 2 levels and across half the ship she reaches the internal cargo bay she'd given to the men. It's been divided into sections and she sprints by a series of machines, making a very heady-smelling something. The place where they're no doubt mixing their toxic sauces and a room that smells of so many old pheromones that if she wasn't a well-fucked woman, she'd have fallen to her knees from the slightest scent of it. Into a small room with a crude but very solid comms tower, and it's activated with the press of a previously covered button. It turns on immediately. Audio and visual. Commander Ollie, what's the emergency? Admiral Cistern asks right away. So this thing is the emergency. The big man must know button? Good. The chaining is crewed by cannibals and sadists. They have a shoot-on-sight order in half the galaxy and detain on sight in the rest. They're fond of implanted bombs, and I've got the captain here for everything I've missed. It gets worse, much worse. Agenda says to the imaging of the Admiral, which seems to be hardening in fury. A small part of her mind said that it was one of the hottest things she'd ever seen. They're rampant rapists with a love of slowly devouring their partner until there's nothing left to fight them with. Then they dispose of them. This can take years, but the children they spawn this way. The chaining is a multi-generational ship, mothers driving their daughters to madness and cruelty. So, extermination rather than recruitment. Where do they birth? They don't have a specific birth, but there are 4 systems that won't attack them on sight in this part of the galaxy. That's where they go for R&R. You'll find more information there. And where did you get this information? Most captains make a point of not being there when the chaining is. As such, we know where they go, and we stay the hell away if it's in system. They're all lunatics. The sooner you get your man back, the better. The Admiral nods in response. You need to check out the Yelthrin system, the Wariath system, the Chelt system, and the Rog system. Admiral Cistern, who was taken? Beck asks in concern. Corporal Gregory Schmidt. Pookie? Beck demands, and Admiral Cistern looks exasperated. Pookie? Agenda asks him, wondering what kind of man this was. His nickname, he was in the same barracks as me when we were putting the Dauntless together. In basic training, he and his squad were threatened to run until they puked. So he simply stopped, messed with his stomach, and barfed up before asking if he got out of the run. They gave him an extra mile for being a smartass, but apparently started chuckling the moment he looked away from them. That might help him. The chaining's crew force-feed bombs into their hostages as a stopgap before the implanting surgery. If he can get it out and do what Miles did here, then he may have a chance, Agenda explains. And to her surprise, she finds she cares. Damn it, she's going soft. But we need to get there yesterday. What kind of systems are Yelthrin, Uriath, Chelt, and Rog? A supply post that's in disuse since the lanes shifted. An overly neutral system dedicated to telecommunications and experimental programming. A dangerous vacation system with a massive black market and one of the top 100 most profitable casinos in the galaxy. I see. A moment, please. He says, tapping some things in and pulling something up on his personal screen. From the last reports you're closest to Chelt, we also have privateers currently at Ilthrin and Rog. Uriath is on the path of the Dauntless to the Galactic Core. Are you willing to check around Chelt and effect rescue if the opportunity arises? Yes. The bitches give all pirates and bitches a bad name the galaxy over, if they're trying to contain a maniac half as crazy as Miles was. Then this is the perfect time to get in and gut the cunts. Indeed. You have your orders. I'll be paying you 10,000 for this, with an additional 100,000 if you end up in combat. Admiral Cistern promises, and she nods. Anything else, sir? Beck prompts. Get yourself and your boys ready. You need to be ready to go in hard, fast, and make a mess. He orders, and Beck snaps off a salute in response. Good man. The situation is serious enough that Agenda doesn't even smirk at the innuendo. The call is cut, and Agenda turns immediately and activates her comm. Girls, we've got ourselves another mission. We're heading to Chelt yesterday.